Right, so I was also asked to talk about another topic. The topic is geoscientific software papers. That is basically the question: how do we publish about? We are here in a scientific conference, and sort of publishing is a natural thing. And as I showed earlier, you know, where Google Scholar accepts R packages as a full publication, if you accept it too as an author. Then that is fine, but it's of course not, you know, it doesn't work everywhere the same. So what I'm going to say there, was this my first slide? Yes. There's a principle. We need to get more code out there. That is what Roger Penck said in Nature Contribution quite recently. There was this year a paper by Van Noorden et al. In Nature. It was called the top 100 papers. Nature explores the most cited research of all time. So they looked at sort of what are these papers, the sort of the most cited papers of all times. And they were not about the most sort of biggest scientific discoveries or breakthroughs, but they said the vast majority describe experimental methods or software that have become essential in their fields. Basically what everyone uses and refers to. So no, very little Einstein. So even for papers not in the top 100, software papers get cited well, and particularly by those who use the software in later papers. Yeah, so often people don't read the paper, but just cite it, as in this still counts. Authors are more inclined to use software that has been published. Yeah, so if you publish about software, then, and I will explain later what it means, what it involves, you find more users because you explain them what it is, what it does, and you explain it in a different way than a user manual would look like. So, and another reason, another incentive that I found actually striking was that after you've developed the software, writing the paper is strikingly little work. Yes, it's actually fun to do. And the hard part was really writing the software, and that was typically done for another purpose, right? For writing sort of the papers with which you got results. So what is a software paper? A software paper needs to be a scientific publication. It's not a user manual. You don't say you click this button, you click that button. Software which has not been scientifically published is the main result and should be a scientific contribution. So we have software that is a result. It's not about a new method. The methods can be published somewhere else. It can be about the implementation of a method. But it's probably about a new implementation. It can't be something that has already been published or something like that. Or and it has to also be a substantial contribution. As the methods it implement may have been published otherwise, and it puts the software in the context of existing solutions. So you write about related work, about other approaches, and why this is a good thing to come up with this new approach. It describes open source software, as Marcus mentioned. There's little point in doing science with closed source software. And it should come with worked out use cases as an illustration. So the software paper should come with a text, and it should come with the software and the use case as part of the submission, with the use case being easily to reproduce. So it should actually come with the software. And the review procedure should also address both paper and software. Then there are questions: when is software ready to be published? Yes. So if you just come fresh from the needle, so to speak, then it might be somewhat too early. It's always a good idea if you already have some experience with other people using it, and get some feedback, and can write something about that. And there's always the question like how much software justifies a full scientific paper, or is it more like a code snippet or something like that? So how does paper get, how gets software published, as opposed to journal paper software typically lives on, but there needs to be a freeze, there needs to be a good sort of clear version that corresponds to what has been described in the paper. For instance, Computers and Geosciences, where I'm one of the co-editors in chief for, in the early days used FTP server, and now uses GitHub. GitHub's a repository where it forks sort of software that is there and says, well, this is the fork, it's the copy of the thing that came with publication. The Journal of Statistical Software, and another journal where I'm involved in as an editor, basically provides the copy of the software on its homepage. Yes. That is done usually also on the ground, because it's clear that there's that is identical. So Computers and Geosciences has, of course, for us as the geosciences community, should have somewhat a special role. I started there as an editor about a year ago, doing that together with Jeff Kaars from Stanford University. And I looked up the first paper, and you can see this is published in, it's published in 1975, and so it predates many of us essentially here. I was 8 at that time. And the very first paper is about photon 4 programs to aid in the determination of important parameters in the classification scheme. And if you go down sort of this paper, which is nicely scanned, then you see that it's sort of the paper is full with Fortran code, right? And this was by then the only way to sort of to communicate, that people would read it and would actually type it. As it was not like you could get this digital. This is in the time before the internet. Yes. Or you would order a tape if it was a large code of a couple of pages. People would kind of copy these things by hand. So these were papers these were papers that came with software. So I'm standing here because I'm co-editor-in-chief for these 2 journals, and we publish software papers. I recently added a special volume for the Journal of Statistical Software, which had 22 papers on the topic of spatial statistics. There are a lot of spatial statistics papers there. Tom Hengel was one of the, sitting there, was one of the authors of one of the papers. And I'm actually now at a moment that at Computers and Geosciences we will run a special issue, and they have here is a call for papers for the special issue, and it's a call for software papers. And so Computers and Geosciences, although it has sort of done papers with software and on software all the time, it never sort of came with an identified software paper type. And so we will launch the software paper type that has a bit more clear structure in the sense of requirements, what it's about, what is required, what's not required, and how will things run, in the sense that software will be part of the review. So at the moment of submission, it is clear where the software is. Either you submit software as part of the submission, or the paper tells where it is, if it is on a GitHub repository or something like that. So it's a bit, it's a bit more of a structured approach to publication of software. And the deadline for these papers is this fall. I think I put it on 1st of October. So please contact me if you're interested in providing, or if you have questions or something like that, like is this a good contribution, is that a good contribution, and if you want help, or if you